Hey everyone, welcome back to New JANG City. In this video, I'm just going to be taking you through some stuff that I have built or worked on over the past week and just give you a general update on where things are. First, let's look at this short train here, which has some new things on it. Some of the containers, mostly starting from here, and also these three cars at the tail, are new. They're based on the existing design that I already had. So up here, this is old stuff. The yellow design is ultimately inspired by the Maersk train container carrier, combination well car and double tandem container carrier. One of these containers right here in dark gray is new. I just copied the design of what I've already had previously. I believe that red one is new. The blue one is not. The light aqua container is new. The yellow one is new. Got my first sand blue one done. That's relatively expensive. It's an uncommon color for that corrugated steel piece. And then this one's done just a little bit differently, the octan colored one. And the cars just, well, I had the well car bases in white. The largest number of those parts that I had were in the white color. So I went with it and just did a little bit of red accent. And the reason that I'm not using those as well cars in particular, I mean, I could do like I have over here, putting a single container down low, and then I can stack another container on top of that easily. But the reason that I'm not doing that with the stacking is that you end up with a really tall stack, and it's just not that good. I can actually show you right here. Pull this up. There we go. Yeah. So it works with the design that I have, but it just makes for just containers and cargo is way, way taller than my locomotive. So the scale just doesn't look good to me. So I'm using them like this, essentially as long flat cars, and that works perfectly fine for me. It's good to have some additional cargo on the line and to be able to just extend out my rolling stock. Incidentally, over here in the cargo space, that yellow container is also new. No big deal, just adds a little bit more to this space. More train related goings on back here with some ballasting work that has been done. I actually did my first ever live stream build work in this space, which was nice and went pretty well. It was only originally publicized for the live part of it on Patreon. I just have a nice small crowd. That was nice and chill, but did this work. It actually took me about 3 hours. I wasn't interrupted too much by the chat, so that really was the amount of time that it took to do. So just the ballasting of the inside track that you see right up to there, and then also this crossover section in between, and then a little bit between that switch and this switch. I think that's just it right there. I think that's all that I worked on. But this stuff has to be done manually. It has to be done one piece at a time with the tracks in place. Pull up the tracks, put a part down, put the tracks back down, reassess, figure out what piece to put where next. It's not something that can be done procedurally or programmatically. If there is any pattern that is possible with this particular angle, it's not an easy one to replicate. And with all of these tracks being kind of imperfect in their position because they're not, on the grid per se, they're not parallel and perpendicular compared to the base plates underneath. Well, it's so much easier and more reliable to do it the slow way. The slow way is the good way. It's reliable and ends up with results that will actually work and I don't have to redo. So I particularly worked in this area here because I really didn't like how things were looking down here, because I have the light gray base plates, I've got brown base plates, and I also have some dark gray base plates down towards this end. Yeah, those are base plates under there. So where all those came together, and then you had the old dark gray colored track plastic underneath, it just looked really bad, especially in this section right here, going from brown to the light gray. So a lot of that has been fixed up and just looks so much better. What I need to work on next, though, is just continuing on down this line through the brown section, the dirt section, out to there. Once it gets back to dark gray, it doesn't look quite as bad because there's not a lot of contrast when you do have the dark gray based ballast on top of dark gray. But this shouldn't be just tracks directly on top of dirt. And I'm also going to probably pull out some of this foliage that I put in pretty quickly, relatively recently, maybe a month ago or so, or maybe a little bit less. Pull out some of that, shape up the dirt underneath there just a little bit, because I put that foliage in there because I just was tired of seeing this empty space. But when you look at it from the top, it doesn't look so good because it's just so flat. That's way too flat. You look at it from closer down, it looks much better, I think. But I want it to look good to me as I just walk around. So that bugs me. So I'll be taking some of that out, adding just a little bit of shaping to the terrain, maybe giving it a reason for extra moisture to accumulate here to create kind of a miniature oasis, a little greener spot there. And as I do that, I may come up with opportunities to put in even more foliage and make this look a little bit nicer and more complete. My passenger train yard is missing an entire train, and over here at the train station, well, this passenger train, my original custom passenger train, is missing its center car. I took all that stuff into the building room, and I'm currently working on making the cars more compatible with each other visually between the ones made for this train, or the one made for this train, and the ones made for the newer train, and also making the newer cars a little bit shorter and making a couple of additional new cars. So ultimately the goal is to be able to run longer passenger trains, or at least with more cars, and just some of the cars will be shorter than they were before. I think more cars is better than longer cars. And finally, coming back to the zoo space, there's not a lot new to see here, but most of what you do see that is new since the last video of this area is not even really to be focused on at all. It's beyond temporary, like more temporary than temporary. Just sketching in. I've been using these, or I did use these roller coaster tracks just to rough in some ideas of shapes. Not even the direction that I really want to go with the shaping here, for paths for the pedestrians, for the patrons of the zoo, the visitors to the zoo, to walk around this space. I just wanted to put something up to get me visually seeing, feeling, and thinking about alternates to just using a grid. It would be nice to have some curves. It would be nice to have some irregular shapes to the exhibits and the paths that the visitors will be taking around there, and take what you see here with far less than a grain of salt. Don't worry about any of it. If any of this offends you, offends the senses, don't worry about it. I've got it covered. I'm going to do it how I want it, and it's not going to be like this. This is just part of the process for me, the mock building process, custom building process, the creative process, to figure out how I'm going to approach a particular question or a particular design challenge. I also got the monorail, if you haven't seen it, if I haven't shown it properly, I got the monorail tracks cleaned up. So last time I gave you a good look over here when I first put in the monorail tracks, they were very, very yellowed because they were very, very old and just, needed some treatment. So I gave them the treatment. I did the hydrogen peroxide treatment with UV light like I've shown, I think a couple times over on the JANG Bricks channel. You can just look for a yellowed Lego or Restore Lego or something like that. JANG Bricks, Restore Lego, something like that. Anything like that, and you'll find the video or videos about it. Just basically just using diluted hydrogen peroxide, keep the stuff submerged, give it some sort of UV source outdoors if you have access to the sun. Works great. Make sure you don't leave it in for too long, but it works great. These tracks were looking terrible before, and now they're looking very nice. Not brand new, but pretty close. So I got those cleaned up, and I've tried using like these little short tracks a little bit to see if I could figure out how I could make the whole track a little bit, the whole loop or part of a loop, a little bit larger, give myself a little bit more space in the middle. But I don't think it's going to end up fitting. I don't think it's going to work out. But that's okay, because the monorail track actually doesn't take up that much space, and it's all, most of it's going to be elevated anyway. Most, if not all. I think it'll just be a case of most. So most of it will be out of the way, and I don't have to use a lot of decoration around it. It's self-standing, self-supporting. It just works as it is, and it's only 4 studs wide, so it doesn't take away that much space from the zoo. I know forever, for all of eternity, there will be folks who will complain about the fact that the monorail tracks are here and will insist that I should never put it in here, but it's my zoo, it's my Lego stuff, and I want to have a zoo train here. Zoo trains are things a lot of people haven't been familiar with, from what I've seen from comments. And just search on Google or something, zoo train. It's not something to get to a zoo. It's not something to connect you between the rail system or an existing rail system of a city or a region. It doesn't connect you with any other transit system. It's just within the zoo itself. It's just its own little ride, its own little attraction that is specific just to that area, just to the zoo. So that's what I'm doing. And I am feeling pretty good about it still. As I've continued to think about it, I've continued to mess around with it and look at possibilities. It's most likely going to work for me. Previously, I was still on the fence about it, but I'm far less on the fence about it now, and I think it's going to work very well for what I want to do, for how I want to use it. I still have not figured out exactly where the station will be for getting on and off station or stations, but I'll figure it out. No worries. It'll be good, at least as far as I'm concerned, and that's the main concern. And I will figure out very soon exactly where that needs to punch through the hillside over here, whether it's going to be really, really close to the existing tunnel or it's going to be in just a little bit. Probably want to get it as close to the existing tunnel as reasonably possible so that I don't waste too much space. And yeah, that's all that's going on over here for now. And on that note, it is time to end. Thank you for watching. The next stuff that I'll be working on is, well, I think first continuing on with the passenger train rebuild and expansion. That has come along pretty far. The window pieces that you saw in my last parts haul on this channel will be going into 2 of those cars. One will be a locomotive or end unit. The other will be a center unit. And then I think I will have enough pieces to finish those off. So I'll be able to give you a demonstration of hopefully all those together. What will I have then? 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, I think. Maybe a 6-car train as opposed to my previous maximum of 3. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see running around here. And then I've got more ballasting obviously to do that I want to do fairly soon, but probably after the passenger train stuff, miscellaneous stuff just as it comes up. If I feel like working on a little something, I'll just do that. And then I'll show it to you in another update next time we come back in here. And I'll also be focusing on the zoo, continuing to focus on the zoo and pushing that forward in general to the next phase. So stay tuned, and I'll talk to you again soon.